And there we go. Oh, hey, everybody.
We're crooked.
Oops. Oh, okay. I just moved the camera a little bit. Hey, everybody. It's Guitar Talk from Gary's Guitars. These are guitars. This is Gary. I'm Mark. And we're going to talk about guitars. As you might well know, the regulars who are here come back. Just a very casual question and answer, hangout kind of thing. One thing I did get as a comment from a watcher is that the commercials, and when you watch after the fact, they put commercials in. YouTube does that,
right.
And that they're louder than
we are. $10, right?
That's $15, but it's still worth it. If you don't have YouTube Premium, just do it.
I refused to pay it forever. My wife paid it, and I said, "Yeah, good spend."
Yeah, money well spent if you do any YouTubing much, because just that little half an hour here and half an hour there really takes a lot out of your life.
Right.
But
anyway, somebody said
back away. I got to do the so Guitar Talk. We talk about guitars. Gary's Guitar Sports in New Hampshire. Put a comment in, just saying hi, so we know you're out there. And if you have something to add to something we say, add it. And if you want to introduce a topic, just shout it out. And we're just having a big old conversation.
I want to mention that today is February 1st, which means in New England it is officially the second season. It's almost spring now.
It's almost spring season.
Yeah.
So we're going to have about 2
Winter's
months of
over. It's almost spring until it is spring.
Mm-hmm. Most likely 2 months of almost spring.
Except Friday night, it's supposed to be like 30 below zero or something.
It's going to be bad, but let's not talk about that. That's depressing.
I think it's back in the 40s by Sunday, so we'll survive.
Yeah, it's just a quick little burst of cold. Paul and Chris and a bunch of the regulars are out there. Brandon, Utah, Roger in LA, William Morgan, Jimmy. Yeah, just hi everybody. Just saying hi. And if anyone has any questions, just got a Made in Mexico player series with a Pal Ferro fretboard instead. What do you think about that wood instead of rosewood? That's a good thing to talk about. It's a thing.
Yeah, well, it's real wood. That's good.
Yeah.
I remember Chris used to build necks out of it instead of ebony. He liked it better. It doesn't crack as much, maybe.
Yeah. So it's another species of rosewood, or it's a close relative of the rosewood, and whether it's a species of rosewood.
Did I say necks? I meant fingerboards.
Fingerboards.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Also, Chris used it for fingerboards.
Yeah, because ebony is so brittle and it cracks eventually.
Yeah, and so they Fender knew they had to use another. That they can't use ebony on everything.
Right. And
so they had to find a suitable replacement, and they decided to try it out in the Player Series, I think.
Right.
And it's fine. So the only objection that people would have to it is it doesn't look exactly like rosewood, in that it's a little streakier, a little lighter, naturally lighter in color.
Right.
For those who don't know what I'm talking about,
do we have an example?
Here's an example.
I wouldn't say that I would recognize it, but
yeah. So it's just a little lighter in color than you're used to.
Yeah.
You'll see more, a little less dark, because it's lighter, you'll see more dark stripes in it.
Yeah, and pretty even.
Grain. Very even. Nice grain.
Yeah, rosewood's usually not that consistent.
Yeah, the problem is the rosewood has been really harvested out pretty badly, I think.
Or burned down.
Yeah, we're turning to coffee tables.
Yeah, that too.
So,
furniture makers.
So yeah, the selection of rosewood is just, not only is it more expensive, it's just not as good. Godin has gone on to use a composite material they call Richlite.
Richlite, yes.
Which is a kind of Bakelite. I think Bakelite is copywritten.
It's made from wood products.
It's compressed wood,
right.
With a little bit of epoxy resin or something. I like Richlite. And actually Chris made one of his guitars had a Bakelite fingerboard. Remember, his number one.
It was something. Wasn't called Bakelite, but it was similar.
Yeah,
it was.
He called it not micarta, but
no, I can't think of it.
No, it's but it's Bakelite essentially.
Right.
It's the stuff they made. Bakelite's the stuff they made knobs out of on radios before there was plastic. So it's kind of an early predecessor to plastic. It's a composite material with wood, actually layers of paper squished together. There's a video somewhere.
The original Telly pickguards were Bakelite.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I like the material. It's because it reminds me of old radios and shortwave and. But Pal Ferro is fine with me.
Yeah.
Totally. I don't know if we've ever done a really A/B Pal Ferro versus Rosewood, or anyone has, but there's a bunch of stuff out there. Mike's out there in Hungary.
Hey, Mike.
Dan Richards. You're a little choppy tonight. Is that on my end or yours? Could be your end. We'll see how it goes.
We look okay on our screen.
Is it audio chop or overall video chop? Because I did notice we usually leave the volume on 8. It was on 9 just now, but then I remember that someone complained that the commercials were getting distortion. Yeah, we love distortion in all its ways. I know the Made in Mexico Classic 50 series. Yep. Those are I think it's just the Player series they're putting the Pal Ferro on for now, but other companies are slowly switching to it. Rosewood, ironically, the Classic Vibe comes with Rosewood.
Really?
Because Asian Rosewood is a little more common, and they're in Asia, and but it's not. I mean, it's
for a long time it was Indian Rosewood, because Brazilian was
forbidden.
Gone.
Yeah, and you can't even use it now. Indian Rosewood is probably
that's in Asia
best. Yeah, the best known Asian rosewood, but we haven't run out of wood like some people were going to predict. But so
getting there.
Smooth out on my end. Okay, you're in smoothed out then, Dan. The SRV Strat had a Pal Ferro, so if it's good for him, okay. The SRV Strat. Well, maybe the reissue has a Pal Ferro. Right. His own Strat, I don't know. That's too early.
I don't know what year is. I think this was from the 60s.
Yeah, but he might have had his fingerboard redone. I bet he went through some frets for sure. So we got to look that up. But maybe the contemporary SRV Strat. I don't know. The contemporary Jimmy Vaughn Strat is Mexico. Jimmy Vaughn Strat was always made in Mexico. SRV was USA made, and now they might make it in Mexico. Just guessing here. The Squier 60s P bass has a Laurel fretboard. Yes,
Laurel.
Yeah. Also, Fender has been using walnut. I don't know how I feel about that.
Seagull, you had walnut bridges for a while, but they started cracking.
Yep. I just don't have a good feeling about this walnut. It's just a suspicion. It is not a tone wood. It's not a guitar making wood, and I don't know if it will. Yeah, I think it's a little prone to.
Scott built dryness. I think it was a Les Paul out of walnut for a guy because he had a
coffee table.
His grandfather's 150-year-old piece of walnut coffee table.
Yeah,
Scott chopped it.
Yeah, for body, I think great idea. Fingerboard, I don't know. It's actually the jazz bass, actually the left-handed Fender bass that we have here. That one definitely has a walnut fingerboard. So Jerry's out on this. Hello from Memphis. Frank in Memphis says hi. Thanks for saying hi. JJ UK is the usual. He's out there. Let's see here. So we're talking about fingerboards, and is that all for fingerboard talk? Maybe. Talk about Rich Light. Also, I guess, ebony fingerboards are a lot less common now. Ebony's a lot harder to get.
Yeah, well, again, Chris, let's see, by 1990 maybe, officially could not find a decent piece of ebony big enough to make anything other than a bridge.
Yeah.
So fingerboards were out.
Yeah.
And then by 10 years later, couldn't find decent ebony anywhere.
Well, I think Robert Taylor actually has cornered the ebony market.
That's right.
He did it in order to make it more sustainable. So he's making, so it used to be you cut down 10 trees for one tree you kept, and the rest were just left to rot. Right. So he's using the streaky ebony, and he's making other guitars. He's telling guitar makers, hey, if you want the good stuff, I'll give you the good stuff, but you got to take some of this stuff too, because we're not throwing out ebony like we used to. And that may be a good thing because it's just looks. I don't think it impacts the sound. If you see a streaky piece of ebony, I don't think that's a.
Well, it's hard. It's really hard.
Yeah.
So it's always kind of felt like maple to me.
Mm-hmm.
Not that rosewood is that much softer, but it's kind of comfy.
Someone just said Mighty Might has ebony fingerboard necks for sale. Yeah, there's the companies. Maybe All Parts.
I don't know.
Still got one too.
Chris couldn't find good ebony 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I doubt if there's any around
He
now.
was a little pickier because he remembers back when all the good woods were. That was the thing. He was
building
guitar in the
guitars.
60s.
He didn't want to build a $5,000 guitar and have him come back 2 years later with a cracked fingerboard or something.
Yeah.
So, he was just looking for the good stuff, which is what we're all looking for.
Yeah. Could you give advice on a fair-priced, all-solid wood construction acoustic guitar for bluegrass? All solid for bluegrass. Well, they
there's not much bluegrass around New Hampshire. It's not like we talk to bluegrass
players
all the
constantly.
time.
I mean, Blue Ridge really won their place in the market. They make an all-solid guitar for what used to be $500, probably $600 now or something. The Seagull SWS is solid wood series, but if you're showing up to, you got to even if you get the slim neck profile, which is the Martin look to the neck, you're still gonna have that Seagull headstock, and if you show up at a bluegrass festival with that, you might get snared at. I don't know. Bluegrass guys love Martins. I'd say
D18s.
What's that?
They just think D18. That's what you're
the
looking
ultimate
for.
thing.
And I can't think of.
Also, we have one here, a 1969 D18.
Well, there's Santa Cruz's and stuff.
Yeah.
They make a D18 style.
Also, the Eastman's. So when we talk about anything under $1,000, it's either Seagull or Asian made.
Right.
No other North American guitars other than Seagull can price themselves below $1,000 right now. That's a complete generalization.
Right.
So when you go into the Asian made all solid guitars, Eastman, like I said, pretty impressive. Blue Ridge, okay, and they're holding up because remember, like 20 years ago when the Blue Ridge first started coming around, it was like, okay, it sounds okay now, but this guitar is a $500 guitar. I don't know if it's going to hold up. I think they're holding up okay.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
Can't say I've seen a plethora of bad Blue Ridges.
No, we don't see them come in. We see them coming neglected.
Yeah.
I've seen Blue Ridges come in that have obviously been, just shrunken and cracked and all that kind of stuff, but not Blue Ridge's fault. I think they're.
I remember when the salesman came in for the first time, and we have this new line, Blue Ridge. Cool, and showed me all the specs. I said, well, it's basically the same as a Seagull, same price, except it's not made in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need another Seagull.
Right, yeah.
So I
just got that Martin style headstock, so you don't get stared at the Bluegrass Festival.
Yeah. We had Simon and Patrick's for that.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, when people can't take the Seagull headstock. Mike says that stuff doesn't grow on trees. And talk about the fingerboard materials. Rickenbacker uses bubinka, and then they finish over it. Yes, we have a Rick bass here right now. I'll show it to you.
Oh yeah, I don't even know I spotted it the other day. Huh.
Martin 00016 ship says.
Yeah.
16 is the good, the good inexpensive one. The 15, I think, is the stay away from it one.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, just generally speaking, the Martins.
00018, that's the one.
Oh yeah, that's the one that's $3,000.
Lesser versions of them.
Yeah. But the 16 is the inexpensive one that's still a decent guitar.
But not a great bluegrass. In my limited experience, bluegrass guitar has to be a dreadnought.
Yeah.
Preferably mahogany.
You got to keep up with the fiddles, Yeah, that's why it's got to be all solid. You need a thing that cranks.
Don't need it.
Yeah, there's a bass player. Right. That guy, You just need to be able to dueling with a banjo player, so to speak. Dueling banjos. I've been looking at the Blue Ridge at the town next to me. So yeah, I'd say it's all right. And like I said, the Eastman, I was so interested in Eastman, I thought about carrying them because when they come around, it's like, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
But it's just a little redundant right now from what we got. We get a lot of guitars anyway, so we'll have to wait on that. Also, you know what? The Lore, which we carry their mandolins, they are making,
They have an all solid one?
I got sick of it. They had some higher end acoustics that I came across one and that was pretty impressive, but also, kind of Blue Ridge or Eastman quality. I wouldn't be surprised. I can't necessarily recommend them because I really haven't spent a lot of time with them. But the couple I saw and touched, I was impressed. So I'm going to look into that as well. They're the folks who bring us the Johnson guitars.
Right.
So you think like, oh boy, Johnson guitars. Johnson was the cheap guitar for years.
Yeah.
That was the $99 acoustic guitar with a bag.
It's the best one I could find.
Yep.
They mostly worked.
And they're still around. You had a Johnson for years. Didn't you have a Johnson
Probably.
at home?
Yeah, I always like to have a beater at home.
Yeah.
For the kids to bang on, and it was probably a Johnson.
Ship says the 00016 was $1,500 in 2006. So yeah, that's real money.
Yeah.
It's
probably American made in the 15s Mexican. That's probably what it is.
Could be, or yeah. But yeah, they also make some of those Mexican made Martins. Because here's the thing, and this is going to be a little controversial, maybe.
Good.
Okay, so this is how I explain Seagull. Because Seagull makes guitars that are $1,000 and under, they're always making the best guitar they can for you. Because they don't have a $3,000 guitar they want to sell you up on. They don't have the Ford Focus and the Ford Mustang. They just have a bunch of Toyota Corollas.
Yeah.
A company like Martin, they're selling high-end expensive guitars. I think they purposely don't want, if they make their $600 guitar sound as great, they're going to lose business. They're going to lose market share on their really expensive guitars. People are going to be like, this Martin is as good as any Martin. I'm going to take, so I think there's a little bit of, and they do it through materials quality. Those weird composite necks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, and Chris Martin was the first guy in the mid-90s to announce we're going to start looking into alternative woods because spruce, rosewood, mahogany, we're running out of it, ebony. So he was the first guy to start trying different stuff. And then Bob Taylor started, that's cool, but let's try to preserve the wood that we have and still have the good woods. And it's still all up in the air, but they're working on it.
Which are we still? We're still on Christopher Martin 4.
Oh, I don't know the numbers. I thought he was the third. Is he? The fourth?
We're on the 4th Christopher Martin already. Yeah. What do you think about the current Epiphone fretwork and QC? This is one for you because you work on Epiphones all the time. Yeah, a couple of high frets here and there for sure.
Well, there's the low end Epiphones like bolt-on neck Les Pauls, SGs, whatever. They're typical $200 guitars. Not completely set up when you get them. Fret problems. Usually there's at least one high/loose fret. Cheap hardware. But then the better Epiphones, the ones that are $500 and up, probably $700 and up, because I haven't paid attention to the prices in a while. They're fine.
Yeah.
So they had that low period where they first went to China, 2007. Pulling that out of my hat, but where they went from being made in Korea and they were okay to what's going on? They all kind of suck, but about 5 or 6 years ago they got better again. They finally figured out how to do it in China and have them be fine. I can't say I've seen a new Epiphone that had any red flags.
We've had a couple come through the Epiphone custom shop or that Epiphone version of the 339 that was pretty impressive. But you'll find just once in a while, and this is with any mass manufactured guitar, they take a perfect fingerboard, perfectly flat according to the computer that made it. They slap the frets in, and that's it. They don't go looking for high frets.
No.
No. And they just assume all the frets are the same height, all the fingerboards the same height. Every fret must be perfect, and it's not. There'll be some high frets here and there for sure. You're as likely to get one. Sometimes they won't, but
Tell you what I see, just because this is in my mind, this is connected. The inexpensive guitars have gotten better and better and better and better. And starting 10 years ago, about the expensive guitars are slowly getting worse. I'm thinking of 4 or 5 Gibsons I've worked on in the last couple of years where I had to take a pickup out or something. Went, what is this? That is not a handmade, high quality pickup. This looks like a pickup that
it's an Epiphone.
Epiphone. I'm sure it's better than that, but the casing, the plating, the wires, it's all cheap.
Well, here's that old saw I've been sawing on. Just because your guitar is made in America doesn't mean the parts were made in America.
Right.
And they could be using Chinese-made pickups.
Right. They could be.
Made in the same factory that's making the Epiphone pickups.
Well, they say the guitar is made in the USA.
Yeah.
Period.
Right. Ford truck.
Made someplace else.
Ford truck is made in the USA. All the parts are made in Canada. I love my Seagull S6, says Brandon. Yep. S6s. I got one. You got a Seagull, but not an S6, right? You got an Art Lutherie.
I have an Art Lutherie now.
Same,
I had 3 or 4 S6s over the years.
Jimmy says, I recently sold my Larrivee D03. It was touted as a Martin style guitar, but I thought it felt strange. I could never put my finger on what it was I didn't like about it. I actually owned a Larrivee for a couple years. Bought it here. Sounded great. Wish I loved it more. Didn't love it enough to keep it. Sold it.
They're one of the few companies that made a major change, and the drop in quality was
noticeable,
dramatic. When Jean Larrivee moved production to the United States, all the Canadian Laravees I've ever seen were great. The American ones, so some of them are great, some of them are not so good.
They're fine. I mean, some of them. Compared to they're not a Washburn or whatever. No. They're fine guitar. Right. So you have an American Larrivee. We're not giving any flack.
No, but I think, and I can excuse him because I'm sure it was he went from 2 guitars a day in his little Canadian shop. And so, now we need to make 50 guitars a day, and we're not set up. They move to the United States. All of a sudden, they're making 10 times more guitars a day. So the quality is probably not going to be there.
Well, this is what I also heard through, and this is sort of secondhand, but when Larrivee was for sale in Guitar Center. Guitar Center is famous for just getting the best pricing and just making the big deals with the dealers.
Right.
Larrivee had a policy of sending their not as good guitars to Guitar Center. And you want cheap guitar, I give you cheap guitar,
a French Canadian.
Yeah. That was my French Canadian accent.
Oh, I thought it was Italian.
Throw me down the stairs, my shoes. I am the sheetrock heir. I'm half Canadian, so I can make Canadian jokes. Right. By the way, I'm not. I love Canadians, especially my Canadian family.
You're actually a Canadian citizen, aren't you?
Shh, don't tell anyone.
Oh, okay. It's a secret. You talked about it once.
Yeah, I'm a double agent. I
report to Montreal all the
time. Yeah,
exactly.
I have to. I'm spying on American. For Robert Gordin is my minder. I meet with him. Yeah, my handler. I meet with him once a year at the NAMM show and tell him everything I learn here in America. Chris Lammy says I brought my Blue Ridge traditional 12-string and got the nut Rick configured. Yeah, I did that for him. Swapped the low, because Rick 12 strings had the low string first. Yeah,
the upside down 12 strings.
Yeah. Plays great. Yeah. You still have that Gibson ES 175.
Yep.
Want to show that off? Oh, that's Sean Reardon. How you doing, Sean? Yeah, sure. We'll show it off a little bit. Yeah, Gary will get that. This is a very special guitar to us because this belonged to Woody. If anyone knows the store for any amount of time, Woody was a teacher here and worked here and a friend of everyone. And this was his guitar. Woody passed away a year and a half ago now, or I can't remember.
Yeah, I looked just came up in kind of August, year and a half ago.
Yeah.
1967, Woody bought it a long time ago. It was his guitar for years and years. And then it got to be worth, $4,000 or
It's too
something.
much. Yeah. Right,
So he bought a Epiphone Emperor and a couple other arch tops, and that's what he'd take to gigs. And this one would appear in
Sit
studios or special occasions. All I can really tell you about it is it was probably the most. It was a gratifying setup.
Yeah.
When you set up a guitar, that involves a number of small operations. Usually, something is not quite right. You turn the screw, or you adjust the thing, and close enough. It's not going to get any better. This guitar, everything went. Oh, that's good. Oh, that's
Set up
good.
perfectly,
Oh, just
yeah.
right.
Mhm.
Nothing.
Bam,
No
bam.
issues.
Yep.
Everything about
So
it.
it has the original bridge with the nylon.
With the nylon saddles.
Nylon saddles.
Tuners have been changed.
refretted, I think, right?
Oh yeah, I'm sure it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are in too good a condition.
Yeah, to be
These are
better
not
than
from
Gibson fresh. Yeah.
1967. The big thing is the electronics
changed.
are original with the grounding cans on the pots, which usually are gone because if you ever have to replace them, it's too much trouble to take them off and put them back.
Yeah, how they do that? Do they put them before they put the back on?
Oh yeah, it's the only way. I'm sure. Well, I think all arch tops they do the electronics
Through
before
the
they put
hole.
back
Oh
on.
yeah, oh yeah.
There's no way that thing is
Yeah,
it's this big. It's
yeah.
not going through the F hole. So maybe through the pickup hole.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's the 175.
Yeah, and the price tag says
400. No, I'm sorry. 5999.
$59.99.
Basically $6K.
Yep. What else can we say about it? The pickups the tuners being changed to the later kind of, that's kind of what those style tuners were on the 500, right? Those weren't original.
Yeah,
style,
these are the Grover. Whatever.
Yeah, that
what
probably would have had the
called?
nylon buttons on this, or
It could have been.
yeah.
Oh no, they were Clusons. I can see the shadow.
Oh, the shadow of what they were. Yeah,
Markings.
individual Bluesons.
Yeah, could have been open back then. There weren't that many choices for high quality. Well, in high quality tuners. So
In Southern Ontario, we learned an Italian Montreal French. Okay. So that's why my French accent's so good. My Canadian accent is so good that you mistook it for Italian. My problem, I actually like French. I like trying to speak French. I actually like the fact that the people of Quebec, like if you're not like in Quebec City or Montreal, they don't speak English.
No,
they don't speak English like at all. They don't like get glass of water, but we don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
So I try to speak some French. When I'm in those situations, and I just revert to speaking Russian. Because Russian is a foreign language for me as well, and I just know it better. So I'll just start to talk to someone, and then like Russian words will start flying. I'll just see the look on their face, and then I'm like, oh, whoops.
It's the only country I've been in, Canada, where I didn't speak the language, and people didn't like it. They wanted me to at least try, and I, beyond bonjour and merci.
Yeah.
But
no, they're proud of their language. Yeah,
they're like excited to hear. Oh, you speak English? Oh,
great. Let's
speak
practice.
English too.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Ship said he just checked his 16 Martin 0016, and it is made in the USA. So yeah, that's the one I'm thinking of. Yeah.
Okay.
I'd love that one. Okay, Sean, stop by and try it out. Sean lives somewhere else now, though. He's not around here. It was the same Sean that I'm talking about.
You're not thinking of Sean with the kilts?
No.
Oh.
Sean, Sean, he's also about the same age, in his 30s or something now, and he plays a lot. Remember, he was Sean, you can tell your own story in the chat, but Owen, the keyboard player, those guys were friends, and Owen had all the he loved weird synthesizers when no one else did, and these guys had a thing going with synthesizers at one time too, and just cool weird stuff.
So, what was the comment from a previous episode or question?
Oh no, it was about the commercials.
Oh, that's all it was.
Yeah,
I thought somebody had something really interesting to talk about.
Let's see here. Make sure we're caught up with the room. All right, we are caught up. So today's other topic, and we're halfway through, so do the halfway through. Thank you for watching Guitar Talk from Gary's Guitars. Gary, I'm Mark, talking about guitars. We do this live, off the cuff, once a week, improvisation of a chat show kind of thing, where we just talk about anything to do with guitars, guitar repair, guitar amplifiers and pedals and whatever comes up.
But only 6 more times.
Yes,
94,
season
right?
1 ends in 6 episodes. So season 1 was 100 episodes. So that's coming. So then the Wednesday night thing might turn to a different night. It might turn to a different format. I don't know yet, but we're gonna take a little
I
break.
think I'll be here.
Oh yeah. You gotta
If
figure
it's
that
after
out.
March 21st, I'm gone for a week. Or if it is that week.
Yeah.
I think 6 weeks will be before that. So I think we're good.
So there's one thing I was like, so before we do the show, we do the slightest bit of preparation, which is what should we talk about?
Right.
If no one asks any questions in the room. And then we just come up with a few like spare topics in case it gets quiet out there.
Right.
And this one was interesting because you said important guitars. Did you say important guitars?
Yeah, I forget
Yeah.
what made me think of it. I was watching something, I can't even think it was. And it was like the next day, I thought, wow, that's an important guitar, not like Stratocasters. Like, it wasn't
That
Van Halen,
guitar,
but
yeah.
like Van Halen's guitar.
Yeah.
Unique.
Inspired a
highly
generation.
Inspirational. People copied it. Companies made replicas
And
of
an
it.
entire company exists because of it. The EVH guitars.
Right.
Yeah.
But then I couldn't really come up with another great example.
I've thought of a couple.
Okay.
Since we thought about that. So anyone out there want to nominate a guitar, a particular guitar, there is Jimi Hendrix's guitar that he gave to Frank Zappa, and Frank Zappa fixed it. And he gave Frank his broken guitar after maybe Monterey or some show. Frank got Jimmy's broken guitar, fixed it, and played it a lot for the rest of his life.
That was his Strat.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's a pretty important guitar.
Important, although I don't know many people that try to play like Frank Zappa.
Yeah, right.
It's a
Yeah,
peculiar thing.
Yeah, but people
something
inspire.
like that. Although maybe Charlie Christian's guitar.
Yeah.
I mean, they were, many of them. Well, there weren't that many afterwards. So, a guitar a new thing, a new sound.
It defined a genre, a jazz guitar.
Players could do this.
Yeah.
So that's about as far as I got with it.
The Red Special, Brian May's guitar.
Yeah, that's that could qualify.
Yeah. Someone said, I think Dweezil has the Hendrix Strat. Well, Dweezil gets to play it, but he doesn't get to own it. His family is a little cruel to Dweezil. His brother, who doesn't play guitar, is part of the legacy. And his mother, apparently, he feuded with his mother over
it's like the Hendrix family, the Zappa. They're like hoarding this stuff, and eventually they'll die off, and we'll have access to it.
Well, so when Dweezil's mother passes on, then he'll have Moon Unit and Ahmed, his brother Ahmed, to fight over the Frank Zappa guitars. Brian May's guitar inspired a lot of people. That's a very particular thing.
And was put
Gail is already dead, according to. So I guess so Dweezil's mother has gone on. Greenie. Is that the Peter Green Les Paul? Is that what you're talking about, Greenie? No, it could be like a Clapton guitar. It was Blackie.
Yeah. I don't know if that's what he means.
But yeah, Peter Green's Les Paul inspired a generation.
Well, I don't know, but so did Mike Bloomfield's and Jimmy Page's and everybody.
But here's the thing, and I looked this up. I Googled this stuff. Joe Walsh loved the Les Paul. So as you know, the Les Paul went out of production essentially in '61. They renamed the SG, became the new Les Paul, and then Les Paul wanted his name taken off of it. And so the SG was just the SG. And there was just no Gibson Les Paul made for years.
67?
Until 68?
Maybe it was 8.
Yeah.
67, 68. Yeah.
Until they started making a few of them. And so Les Paul was kind of dead, except there were some players who insisted on it. One was Joe Walsh, loved Les Pauls. And
so this was James Gang?
From the James Gang, yeah.
Okay.
And he collected up a few of them, and he ended up giving one to Jimmy Page.
Wow.
Hey, Jimmy, try out this guitar. It's my Joe Walsh impression. Jimmy, this is a really good guitar. You should try one of these old Gibsons. And that was Jimmy Page's, his Les Paul.
Right.
So it belonged to Joe Walsh, and also Joe Walsh gave a Les Paul to Pete Townsend.
Hmm. So he was like George Harrison with ukuleles.
Yeah, except with vintage
Play
Les
this.
Paul.
Here, have one of
Except
these.
with 59 Les Pauls.
Right. Well, they were worth
They were
$200 or
everywhere,
$300 at the time.
It was a used guitar.
Right.
You don't want an old guitar. They don't you know they fixed this thing? Dan Electro's 59 Dan Electro's Jimmy Page's Dan Electro.
Yeah,
But think bigger, folks. So
Yeah.
real important.
Something special about
Like
it.
something that it should be in a museum. All they should be in
Oh,
museums.
that's right.
too.
What's in a museum? Huh. Oh, there's that picture over there.
You know, that's Brian's collection. That was a museum show, but not actually in the museum. Not the Cheap Trick guitar.
No, nothing that would quite fit.
Okay, but here's my nominee. So first of all, just Joe Walsh's Les Paul he gave to Jimmy Page.
Yeah.
Because that Jimmy Page playing a Les Paul made everyone else start playing Les Pauls again, I think. As you may know, the first two Led Zeppelin records were done on a Telecaster. Right?
Oh, right.
Yeah. Through a little Gibson amp, I think.
I think you have to go back one more step to Mike Bloomfield.
Mike Bloomfield, yeah.
In '64, he was playing tellies too, but 64, 65, he was playing a Les Paul, and that's with Jimmy Page and Clapton and Beck. Like, who were they looking up to? Bloomfield.
Lucille, yeah, you're gonna say that. Neil Young's Les Paul, that's a good one. Trigger. Yeah. Willie Nelson's guitar, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. It's special.
Johnny's Moss Right. Yeah, that inspired the generation of punk, right?
Oh yeah, right.
No one wanted Moss Rights were kind of crap before that. Before everyone decided,
I was in a band in high school, and at the time it didn't strike me, but 10 years later, he was doing pretty good imitations of Jimi Hendrix on a Mosrite plugged into a Tuck and Roll Custom.
Yeah.
Maybe, I was too young and I didn't get it.
Yeah.
It was like, that sounds great. That sounds just like the record.
Yeah.
Maybe now I would hear
Yeah,
it.
right.
Yeah. That a Mosrite could do that? That was
Paul's Hoffner, yes. Hoffner bass that Paul McCartney's still playing. That's a good point. Buddy Holly Strat. Al Di Meola's Black Les Paul? That might be a little stretch. I don't know if that inspired a generation.
Well,
But
there are some people that really like Al Di Meola.
And I think Frank Stone is one of them.
I bet he likes Larry Coryell too.
Yeah, I would say there's another one that popped in my mind. Hold on. Thought coming out, folks.
Mm-hmm.
Mark Knopfler's Red. Was it Red? The original Knopfler Strat.
The one that was it a Sadowski, Sir?
No, not the Sir. He had the Sir later.
Oh.
this is like the one he came up playing
his
on
Fender.
the first record. Yeah, his Fender
okay.
Strat.
Yeah.
He also was the first Sir guitar, I think. The Pensa,
Right.
the Pensa Sir,
Pensa,
because
right.
Sir was working for Rudy.
Right. Yeah. That's
But apart from that, yeah, he kind of wasn't he responsible for bringing the Strat back? That
Oh well, it's about the same time as Stevie Ray Vaughan. So
he's a little earlier than Stevie Ray Vaughan, 78, 77.
Not much, but yeah.
Yeah. So,
but
I don't
I wouldn't
know.
say that he.
Let's get the room arguing about it, and then maybe we'll see what happens there.
Quickly getting into guitar history now.
Yeah, which came first? Bring a songwriter fan. Yeah. J.J. Cale's Harmony.
All right.
Yeah.
He had that weird harmony. He did something
That he
strange
built, I
to
guess,
it.
yeah.
No, he did something really weird to it.
It had pickups all over it,
Or something, yeah.
like magnetic pickups. And,
He was eccentric.
yeah. That's Sovereign. Yeah. Harmony Sovereign. You know what to tell me about the Harmony Sovereign. Neil Young's Les Paul. We talked about that. Lucille, of course. Yeah. Sometimes writing songs feels hard, and I get stuck. I can't find the lyrics with the guitar.
What sounds hard?
Writing songs.
Oh, writing
So Brandon's
songs.
just talking about writing songs,
It is hard.
or I get stuck writing lyrics. I guess it takes a lot more practice.
It's two different talents: writing music
yeah.
and writing lyrics.
If you're just this, because there were certain like wonderful songwriters who put the two things together, we all assume that we can all do both. But,
you know the Chris story.
what's that?
Very talented guitar pianist that we know got into. I don't know if he needed to do it for something, but he started writing songs. Maybe it just happened. Couldn't write a lyric to save his life, so he started Googling poetry. And he'd find a couple of lines, he'd take it on, and he'd put it together. And he said, I just stole it from, I don't even know who wrote it. 10 different people wrote it. But it worked.
Little bits, yeah.
I couldn't have thought of that.
Who did that?
Well, I don't want to say his name.
Oh, because you're going to rat him out.
You know, Chris.
Oh, okay.
You know, our old friend.
Yeah, okay.
Who's about your age.
And he's out in the room sometimes, so he might be there. Yeah, So
Well,
don't feel bad about not being able to write lyrics. Writing, anyone can do it. So, but you got Jeff Tweedy wrote a book on how to write a song. Get it?
Yes,
read it because it's quite well done. And then he himself mentioned that when he got into like really lyric writing, he used to only improvise lyrics, or he used to just memorize them and not write them, and they weren't really written.
Right.
You know,
so it'd be different every time.
Not just that. No, it wasn't that. But like in the studio, he just have some chords and he just sing whatever he's thinking. You know.
Right.
But when he got into the poetry stuff, he bought the Penguin Guide to Poetry and read it. So it's just pretty pedestrian sounding book, but that's what inspired
a lot
him.
of poetry, I suppose. Maybe not so much Longfellow or something, but
okay. Keith Macabre-Telly. Yeah, Dave Gilmour's Black Strat. I think that's number 2, was it? Or number 1? Dave Gilmour's Strat.
Boy, I forget that story. For some reason, I don't know if one ever actually went anywhere.
Yeah.
George Fullerton ended up with it or something. But it was just a prototype. Wasn't finished. I forget that story. But.
Slight change of subject. Any mass market manufacturer is still making point-to-point wired amps besides Marshall?
Mass market?
Yeah,
the high-end Fender stuff, I presume.
Oh yeah, Fender makes a point-to-point version of most of their amps.
Most of their popular amps.
You know, and they call it a custom shop edition or something. Right. But yeah, if you want and they're 2000 something, and we sold 1 or 2 in the past.
I think Orange might in their high end.
I would be skeptical. We just worked on a hand-wired Marshall, and
there was a PC board in there.
No, it's a PC board that's hand wired to the tube sockets.
Well, you can't have a PC board and call it hand wired. I'm sorry.
It's usually it's a breadboard kind of thing. It's just a bunch of eyelets you connect.
Well, that's fine.
Yeah.
But it's not a flat.
Now, this one I think had or maybe it had the regular breadboard board, and then it had a couple other little boards.
Right. For
like the effects loop was a separate board kind of thing. So it's not quite 100% Marshall, classic Marshall style. David Bowie liked to cut up pages and print out and to make collage lyrics. Yeah. David Bowie had a serious lyric writer's block at one time.
Oh, did he?
That's when he was working with Iggy Pop. I think Iggy Pop was writing lyrics for him or something when they were working together.
Was that the late 70s?
Mid-70s, Low. If you notice, like only half the songs on Low have lyrics at all, I think, or something. Like it's Low was the low point.
Was it Low and then Heroes?
Yep, I think so. Prince's Cloud guitar. That's an iconic guitar for sure. Magnetic Poetry on the Fridge. Yeah, that's a way to get some. Does Vox? Yeah, Vox has some high-end Voxes, so I bet they have something that's. But you'll never get the build quality of the old Vox, because even I don't know. Fender does it well. I've seen the inside of a Fender, hand-wired amp, and it's done
more than once.
No, the new one.
Oh, new ones. Oh, okay. How many Fender basements have you looked inside?
Yeah. The Space Bass from Bootsy.
Yeah.
Slash's Les Paul and Gilmour's Strat. Those are 2 iconic guitars. I built a few point-to-point amps with no turrets, so that means just literally point to point, I guess, without the binding points, the breadboard thing. Yeah. Point to point is depends on the amp, but yeah, I bet Vox. But like if you get an old Vox, that's the old Vox, the quality's real different. Not pooping on Vox. If you have a recent AC-15, it's fine. But I have an old Vox. I have a Baldwin era Vox. I think it's Baldwin. Was it Baldwin that made that? California Vox, essentially. Just it's simple inside and beautiful.
Well, I have to give it to Vox, just like I would with Marshall or Fender. Orange, probably, and even the cheapest little Voxes we see in here kind of sound like a Vox.
Yeah, the new ones are fine.
Whatever they're doing, it's not coming out generic.
That 5-watt Vox was fine. We sold a couple of those recently in the used market.
It doesn't sound like an AC30, but it's got a little Voxy thing in there.
Old iron has a lot to do why old amps sound different and better. True, the transformers, you can't get the metal quality, and we harp on that quite a bit too, I think. My WEM Dominator MK with a 15-inch speaker looks like an organized rat's nest. Okay, so that's very point to point, especially when the wires get to arc up and come down again. So yeah, point to point can be important. Just I think the reason that we love the sound of the point to point amps is the simplicity of them. And I think if you could make it on a printed circuit board, but just keep it simple. When designers who design circuit boards, they're like, oh, I can throw one of these in and this, and I can move this over here. Because I mean, if you look at the inside of a Fender amp, it reads left to right like a book.
Oh, these circuit path.
Power comes in, goes here, then there, goes over that tube, comes back, goes over here, comes back, and it just like it makes perfect sense.
It's not rocket surgery.
It's not rocket surgery. But there's a simplicity to that it's required in point-to-point design. That I think that's part of why we like that sound. It's not necessarily all the extra wire. Or the complete lack of a circuit board. It's the circuit design of a point-to-point amp. Some of the Gibson amps from the 60s have that plate of spaghetti look inside. Yes. Some of those are scary. I was inside one of those not long ago in the
just a jumble of wires.
The Medalist or Medal. Yeah, man, that thing inside. Oh, boy. Oh boy. I just remember I'm having a flashback just thinking about it.
Don't touch anything.
Just not well designed. Sounds great. James is from Sydney. He says hi.
Hi, James.
Some of the Gibson amps, specific to BC Audio, made beautiful amps. Mark says Watkins made the WEM in the UK. Sounds awesome. Totally basic circuit. Okay.
Yeah. That was the common amp in the early 60s, I think. Did they make keyboards too?
The white panel Gibsons,
I remember seeing WEM electric piano sort of thing, Rhodesy. Own pianette,
sure about that.
Maybe not, but that reminds me.
Yes.
Just because it's the weirdest thing in the music world. I heard it about a week ago. I mentioned it to Mark. He'd sort of heard of it. I just can't get it out of my head. So I thought I'd let everybody know it. Apparently, was it Hohner that made the clavinets?
Hohner clavinet, yeah.
Hohner clavinet. They made one, I don't know if it was a special order, with a whammy bar.
Yeah.
Which was apparently a pretty long lever.
Big long lever, and I think it was an option that you could have had. I think I had one. My clavinet I had briefly that Skip now owns, which I should have kept.
Did it have the
fitting
for it or something?
You had to take it out and like put it out into place, and then...
Oh, so it was there.
It was under the lid or something.
So it wasn't that unusual.
No. I don't think it's on all of them. The whammy, and not on all of them. It was an option, I think. And this is just me remembering.
I love clavinets. Everybody loves clavinets. But I would have never thought that somebody put a whammy bar on it, but then it's a great idea.
Garth Hudson probably would have. He was a modifier. Garth Hudson invented the funky, I think, Up on Cripple Creek was the first instance of a clavinet being used for funky purposes. I think it predates Stevie Wonder using it for funky purposes.
What Cripple was that? 68?
66, maybe. 67. 67, maybe.
Yeah, most
66 was their first record. 67. 68. No, the Brown record was 68. Came out in 68.
Yeah, that's because Music of My Mind was
70,
69 or 70. But I don't know if he played clavinet on anything before that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, nobody knew what it was at the time. I
Yeah.
can tell you that.
No pianos, says Mark Christopher. I wonder if this is the Mark Christopher that we knew or a different one.
I don't know.
I haven't seen him in years. Mark Christopher, are you the Mark Christopher that we used to come in here, or are you just another Mark Christopher? Let us know. Yeah, it's just guitar talk. Well, the clavinet is kind of like the guitar.
Oh yeah, it's got a whammy bar.
It's got a whammy bar. It's got strings in it.
It's another instrument with a whammy bar.
So it was made by Hohner for largely for Northern European folk music to be played on it. So an electric clavinet.
Yeah, well, that's it was supposed to sound like a clavichord.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
which doesn't particularly.
Just another Mark Christopher living in the UK. Okay.
Okay.
There's a guy named Mark Christopher. When's the last time we've seen Mark Christopher? I wonder how he's.
Yeah, a few years ago.
Just a guy, a guy just buying and selling stuff.
Yeah, out of his truck.
Yeah.
Would show up with anything from a 62 Strat to a broken Alvarez Regent.
Yeah. Sometimes he'd sell stuff through us. Sometimes we'd fix it for him, and he would move it on. He was the middleman, literally the middleman.
Right.
He'd find the stuff like in.
He went from northern Maine to Connecticut.
Yeah.
All of New England. Just
Uncle
lived
Henry's
in his car,
and
basically.
Yeah.
Looking for guitars for $50 he could sell for $100.
Yeah. And so
he'd end up here. Anything that needed work, he'd end up here because we're kind of in the middle.
Yeah.
And we'd fix things up for him, and off they go, and they'd end up in Burlington or something. Who knows?
Yeah, I got my violin bow from him. I was just talking to him, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I got violin bows." I'm like, "You do?" And he comes back with a big cylinder, just full of violin bows. And I went through a bunch of them, and there was one that was quite good, and he sold it to me cheaply. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, he wasn't. He was fair. Yeah. He paid bottom dollar, and he sold it cheap.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he paid. He bought it cheap, sold it cheap. Yeah, get it moving on.
He wouldn't. I'd tell you, he'd bring stuff in, and I'd say, this needs like $200 or $300. Right? Just make it work. I don't care how it plays, as long as they can plug it in, play a chord, and it's in tune, and it makes a sound. That's all I care about. Mm-hmm. Okay, and then it'd sell it for $89. So I couldn't say anything.
Yeah. Yeah, he wasn't ripping anyone off. That's for sure. It's good stuff. He had an eye.
But I got a B15 from him once for $200.
Yeah, need work probably.
No, it worked fine.
Okay,
I played that one for years. I mean, they were only worth $500 at the time, so it was a deal. It wasn't that crazy.
Yeah, B15s are commonly $3,000 now.
Right.
Which reminds me, I think we have to fix the B15 in the bathroom. I think it's finally time to.
I never checked the transformers.
I think there's one. I think it got decommissioned because it had a dead transformer.
Right. Well, one's been replaced.
Yeah, but it was like, oh, this has a dead transformer. It's not worth fixing, and then you put it away years ago.
Yeah, I sold the knobs off it.
Yeah.
To somebody. A couple other things.
I think you sold. Unfortunately, you sold the.
No, that wasn't there.
Oh, okay, that was never there. The lid, whatever the
screen,
tube screen cover.
Yeah, the knobs. That's all I ever.
Yeah.
I got good money for the knobs.
Yeah, but they've become so valuable.
Right.
I'll bring a truck next time I pass you away. I have a few things I need to get rid of in order to make room. Okay. Or if you drive around New England in a truck, maybe you can still find good guitars. I don't know. Familiar with amplified parts?
Yeah.
Tube amp parts, enclosures, pots, and transformers?
I think Paul gets stuff from them sometimes.
Oh, yeah?
I don't do amp stuff.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the B15, Flip Tops is a great resource. Always has been. That guy's been doing it for 20-something years.
FlipTops.com.
Yeah.
He's got
net.
He's got the weird parts.
Maybe. But just look up Flip Tops online.
Your little bolt that the latch goes on.
He makes reproduction. The wheels, the base that you put
the base plate.
Yeah, he'll and they're reasonably priced. And he sells the transformers. He has them made because and with the potted transformers, they're pretty wacky. And so shout out to the Flip Tops guy for sure.
I was complaining to somebody. Oh, Skip Gallant once.
Yeah.
About somebody needed a transformer. We couldn't find it anywhere. And Skip's been a musician around since 1963 or so, and he's way into gear. He said, back in the day, there was a guy in Dover, I think he said, who rewound transformers.
Yeah.
Transformer went, you just drove it up there, 2 days later, you go get it.
You
It's
just
good
go
as
get
new.
it. 15
$20.
bucks. Yeah, right.
But
yeah.
nobody does that anymore.
Yeah. No, the people who do that for motors, but not for transformers.
No,
not for 15 bucks. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Check out the Truth About Vintage Amps podcast with Skip Simons. Amplify Parts is a sponsor. So I've heard that. So the Truth About Amps. So there's this guy.
Yeah.
He's a little bit of a curmudgeon. He's an amp guru, kind of one of those, he's got to turn on the amp and just listen to it for a while and just hug it and spend time with it. And he's all methodical about how he works on amps, and he has like rules about what he fixes and what he doesn't.
Okay.
I guess he was a drawbridge operator, and he would work on amps on his spare because he's just waiting around for the bridge to have to go up.
So he'd be
and so
soldering away.
Yeah. So he just brought up a soldering iron and some stuff, and he just started fixing amps in the drawbridge.
Right. Shit. Somebody's coming.
And then he got ratted out by somebody, and so he couldn't fix amps in the drawbridge anymore. But it is a interesting. He's an iconoclast for sure, but very opinionated.
What's this?
The Truth About Tube Amps.
Truth About that's on YouTube.
No, that is a podcast.
Oh, I don't
think there's a YouTube thing.
I hate podcasts.
Oh, I love podcasts because you don't have to watch them.
I want to
like
watch.
This could be a podcast. I guess maybe that might be the next season. It's a great place to learn stuff. Yeah, he talks about stuff in detail, in depth, and he really takes you through it.
So I use one cap instead of another cap, or the size wire,
or this is why I don't. This is why this is. I sold him a Bogan RB1 preamplifier that he likes to restore. I guess that could be the Skip Simons guy.
Yeah.
He's near me, said Barry, about an hour away. So, is he still working at the bridge? I don't know. I haven't caught up on that lately. But that was before he was a podcast star. He was kind of a known.
Yeah.
Hammond still makes transformers. There's still a company called Hammond that makes transformers, and but where they're made, I don't know, and how good they are, I don't know. The Accutronics reverb pans that we get from Fender are still stamped made in the USA, probably still made in the same factory.
You still say Accutronics?
Still say Accutronics on them. The same stamp making them and everything, probably. So there's a couple little transformers on either end of that. I wonder where they're getting the transformers from.
Out of cell phone chargers or something?
Yeah. Cell phone chargers don't have transformers.
Well,
that's
wall boards.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So, with that having been said, you've done it again. You wasted another perfectly good hour listening to Guitar Talk. We're going to do the wrap it up. Thanks for watching. So we talked about Joe Walsh giving Les Pauls to Pete Townsend and Jimmy Page. Go Google. Now you can YouTube search this. Joe Walsh sets up a Les Paul.
Okay.
And it's a video of Joe Walsh showing you how to set up your Les Paul guitar. And it's hilarious because he's just sitting on a stool with a screwdriver. Then you do this, and then you try it, and if it's not good, then you do it again. It's just just really entertaining.
The personalized setup.
Yeah,
yes. I do one of those every once in a while.
Let's see here. A bunch of hand stuff. All right, yeah. So that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Come back next week. We have a special guest. I think we had the return. Adam Scharf was going to be a guest, but he got COVID. Couldn't be a guest. I think this is his redemption time. Next might be Adam.
He never did a show.
He didn't because he got COVID like the day before.
Weeks ago, but
yeah. So he's okay and all that. So
he'll be fun.
Yeah.
He's got some stories.
He's got stories, and we have a fun time talking. So thank you everyone out there for watching, and stand by for the end.
Yes. Make sure you ask Adam about the Donnie and Marie show.
Oh, I'm sure. Say goodnight, Gary.
Good night.